It's October 23rd. How you doing? The Niagara Frontier. How is everyone out there? It's beautiful, right? Going into Halloween week here. I want to talk about Canada, our best friends across the way. And I want to talk about Trump seeking a third term and how they're trying to justify it. Steve Bannon was out there making the rounds, and it's horrible. Okay, it's the only way to put it. It's horrible. It's sad. It's horrible that our country has fallen apart like this. So for us on the border here, we know how important our relationship with Canada is. I don't think there's any country I like to visit more than Canada. I love Canada. From Algonquin to the beauty of Banff and Jasper to, as a kid, I used to ride my bike across the way and go swimming at the Dufferin Islands. It was a different time before 9/11. I used to be able to go and just pay a quarter and cross the bridge. If I hear the word Canada, I have pretty much nothing but fond feelings. Is Canada a perfect country? No. Do I think there's problems with some trade issues? Yeah. But there's a grain of truth in that. And then Trump will make it into some horrible, horrible, nasty thing, which he's done. And here we are with an absolute disaster happening trade-wise, especially for regions like Western New York. We need Canada here. We need visitors. We need Canada trade. We need Canada business, Canadian business rather. And we're not getting it because Trump has decided to make Canada, of all places, our enemy. So this ad airs, anti-tariffs ad, during the baseball game. I'm just going to play it.
Let's impose tariffs on foreign imports. It looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer.
Okay, it's obviously the voice of Ronald Reagan, the almost unforgettable voice of Ronald Reagan. And so, why is the voice there? What's going on here? What is this all about? Well, this is what it comes from. It comes from a Ronald Reagan radio address. Here we go.
There's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world market.
So Ronald Reagan here, he's a great spokesperson. He's making a very eloquent pitch against tariffs. He says if you're going to use them for a short period of time. Now, we are in this era now where Trump is, based on his ego, whimsically putting tariffs on everything, right? So after this ad aired, he put tariffs on, he stalled all trade talks with Canada. He had a fit on Twitter or whatever, fake Twitter, whatever his account is called. And here he is trying to destroy our economy, especially the people of Buffalo and Western New York, without actual logic or reasoning based on emotion. And the truth is, the Ronald Reagan Institute put out some statement. I don't even know what that is, saying this is the words of Reagan. We're taking out of context, but you can see this is the actual speech.
And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
So this is obviously Ronald Reagan's voice. I don't know who runs the supposed Ronald Reagan Institute, but Trump is obviously violating the ideals and the principles of a person like Ronald Reagan, who by modern standards was very progressive, actually. I know he did some terrible things, but we continue to move to the right in America. Every time they're like, meet me halfway, we run to the middle, and they go 100 yards away, and they say, meet me halfway, and we keep running to the right. So Reagan was someone who believed in free trade, obviously. He's a free trade pioneer and believed in democracy, the things that Trump doesn't believe in. It's scary, maybe it's most scary to me that the Ronald Reagan Institute has gone along with what Trump is saying, and because they want us not to believe our own eyes or ears. Again, this is the actual tape, and not just this tape. If you look at the work of Ronald Reagan, he was fiercely anti-tariff.
The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize...
So whether you are with Reagan or against him, and many things I am against him on, you knew where he stood ideologically. He was someone who's a free trade warrior. I don't know what Trump is. Trump is a Trump warrior. Whatever's good for Trump is what he wants to do. Now we're going to invade Venezuela. I mean, I thought we were against useless foreign wars. He's all over the place. He's all over the place. Every day it's different. The only rule that applies, like a cult, and this is why people say it's a cult, is the only rule that applies is the cult leader is divine and he knows better. If one day he says we should be eating pine needles, we should eat pine needles. If the next day he says pine needles are poisonous, we stop eating poison pine needles. Or it's all about obedience. Obedience is the key principle in a cult and also in the Trump presidency. That's all that matters. So a trade war is continuing. I've been talking about it for a long time. Even I, the Mr. Canada, I love Canada. I feel that Canada has some trade issues with the United States. Those are legitimate things to discuss. It is very difficult for an American, even those, I have friends who are married to Canadians, they can't work or live in Canada very easily. They can't buy a home there. They have kids on both sides of the, it's just, there's issues that could be resolved. It's much more difficult than when I was a kid, and Canada has become more protectionist. And there might be good reasons for that. Obviously, look at what's happening. Can I take a pause here for a second? Yeah. I want to talk about the history. The history of Canada and the United States is kind of amazing. Give me a 2 seconds here. Canada was basically a protectorate of Britain, right? And we had the War of 1812, the Forgotten War. Why is it forgotten? Because America didn't win. We had a huge war, and there was victories on both sides. Amazing things happened here in Western New York. Don't give up the ship. You know that saying, the Navy motto. It started right here on on Lake Erie, where the British fleet was just decimated by the Americans. They used that as their slogan. Don't give up the ship. It started right here. The War of 1812 between Fort George and Fort Niagara was amazing. They took the roof off Fort Niagara and the castle, and they used it to fire cannon shots from a higher ground. General Brock, many of you don't even know who he is, but everything in Ontario is named after Brock. They have Brock University. They have the Brock Hotel. He's a big deal in Canada, and his statue is pointing out towards Lewiston in New York, like, don't try it again. Then there's the famous Fenian raids. You know about the Fenian raids? The Fenian raids are where Irish Americans from the dock area of the old First Ward in Buffalo, after the Civil War, they learned how to fight, and they're like, you know what? We're going to go fight the British in Canada. And they invaded Fort Erie. They won a battle at Ridgeway. They killed a bunch of soldiers, and the Americans the British pleaded to the Americans to stop it. So we cut off supplies to the Fenian raiders. Fenian comes from the word, the ancient Irish term regarding Fenian warriors, these like Gaelic, mystical, magical warriors. They named themselves after that. And there's the Great Fenian Fear, which led to the Confederation of Canada, the formation of Canada, because basically the Canadians said we have to defend ourselves. So a bunch of rabble-rousing Irish people almost took over our country. We need to fix this. I think that's the only victory by an Irish group or militant group against the British ever. So these amazing things happened here in Western New York. We have this long history. But the most important thing to remember is what's said in the Buffalo City Hall, that we're unfettered by any frowning fortress, that Canada and the United States are brothers, and we've gone through some things in our distant past, but we are brothers. We trade together. We work together. And I think that that should be the spirit. When we have disputes with Canada, let's work it out. Let's make things better. They're our brother. And I've said in the beginning of this podcast, and I'll say it again, Canada is my favorite country to visit. I'm grateful that all the Canadian friends I have and the people that come and visit here. And as a border town person, I feel somewhat of a shared identity. Go Jays. I'm a Raptors fan. Many of you are Bills fans. If you cross the border, there's Bills flags everywhere. We have a shared culture and community. That's why I started calling this Niagara Land podcast, because this whole region, Southern Ontario and Western New York, used to be referred to as Niagara Land. And I am proud of that shared identity, and I'm sad to my Canadian friends and family for the treatment by our stupid president. But let's back up a little bit and remember how we got here. This is Rob Ford. Rob Ford is the leader of Ontario. He's the one who, I think, authorized this ad quoting Ronald Reagan. And Rob Ford is a fool, okay? Can I say it more clearly? He's a fool. This is Rob Ford not that long ago.
Order of Donald Trump.
Absolutely. I wouldn't waver. Like the GOP's wavering, I wouldn't waver.
Well, who's still a supporter of Donald Trump?
Absolutely. I wouldn't waver. Like the GOP's wavering, I wouldn't waver.
Well,
this guy was Mr. MAGA not that long ago. You didn't when he was doing this junk to us, you didn't care. But now that he's hurting Canada, you care. You should get a little more principled, sir. And I go forward here. The Ford family has had lots of problems. And I'm not trying to dance on the grave of Doug Ford, but I think it's worth reminding you that this guy was pro-MAGA. And Netflix had a documentary about Doug Ford, his brother, he's like the Chris Farley of politics. Take a look. Here he is. Here he
Yellow
is.
80! Yellow 80! Say that!
He was the mayor of Buffalo. I think he seems like a very lovable guy. The family comes from a very wealthy background. Their father was some kind of like small manufacturer who hit the big time in Canada. They were from a little suburb of Toronto. But Doug Ford was quite a character. Famously, he had this rant in a McDonald's in Toronto. Talking about, he's high here.
Leave me alone, they got 5 months from me. And then trying to tell me, bro, we're counter-surveilling the guy, you know what I mean? He's hiding here, I'm hiding here,
Okay, and then we have this story.
I was reporting live on TV when Toronto Mayor Rob Ford said,
Olivia Gondak, it says that I wanted to eat her
previously, I used to work at a local 24-hour TV station, and I covered the Rob Ford Toronto City Hall crack scandal. And you may have seen a Netflix documentary about it that was just released.
When the screen turned on, it was just so obvious that it was Rob Ford smoking out of a glass pipe. Holy.
The documentary producers reached out to me about a year ago and asked if I would participate, and I said, sure. The scandal consumed Toronto, and it really rolled in waves, with each development getting bigger and bigger. It started with the allegation that Toronto Mayor Rob Ford was seen in a video smoking crack. He aggressively and adamantly denied it, and this back and forth between allegations and denials, it went on for...
You get the point, but these people have...
Still a supporter of Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Doug Ford and Rob Ford. Rob
Like,
Ford
the
in particular
GOP's
was
wavering, I
not
wouldn't
Doug
waver.
Ford. Rob Ford, Mr. Trump. He loved Trump. He wore a MAGA hat.
There's a growing when someone says
So, like,
Not
of
war.
course, he's now anti-Trump. But I wish everyone would wake up a little earlier. I'm glad you've converted, because you can see how much an idiot Trump is, and what he's doing to your country. But he did that to our country first, and you seem to be cool with it, dude. So I am not a Rob Ford fan. Sorry. I'm glad you did the ad. The ad is true. What Ronald Reagan said is what Ronald Reagan said. But, dude, I mean, if you didn't know that Trump was an idiot 4 years ago or 3 years ago, what took you so long? Here's Venezuela. No one's a fan of Maduro here, but he's obviously a horrible human being. But do we want to invade Venezuela?
Not war, not war. Just peace, just peace, just peace. Forever, forever, forever. Peace forever.
I mean, obviously he's self-interested. Obviously Venezuela cannot defeat the U.S. military. I thought we were anti-foreign war. I guess we're pro-foreign war, just only in our hemisphere. Are we going to invade Greenland? Are we going to invade Canada? Are we going to invade Venezuela? Are we going to give $20 billion to Argentina? Why? Again, I said this yesterday. I'll say it again. $20 billion is more than the entire budget for USAID. So that was the worst thing in history, USAID giving kids AIDS medication in foreign countries, showing America that we're a decent nation. The best thing that Bush ever did was start some of these programs under USAID, and Trump destroyed that, supposedly to save our economy, and then he gives $20 billion on a whim to Argentina. And by the way, Argentina's peso collapsed right after that. It's just a joke. They have no principles, and we're going to put B-52 bombers in Venezuela. Who's even thinking about Venezuela? It's all about destroying democracy at home. I hate to break this to y'all. This guy is just trying to wag the dog, distract. Every day another show. That's how con men work. They have to do a bigger and bigger show every day to keep your attention, and it gets increasingly and more dangerous with each show. So here we are. Some wild stuff.
The Department of Homeland Security just created a...
So meanwhile, if we don't think we're veering into some sort of fascism, watch this.
poster to recruit new agents. It's not even a dog whistle at this point. It's just straight copy and paste. The new recruitment ad features several knights lurking through the fog, and the post was captioned, "Defend your hearth and home." This is exactly the same kind of imagery that Nazis used in their propaganda. Throughout World War II, Nazis frequently compared themselves to knights to justify their invasion of Europe, showing themselves as heroes even as they sent millions to their deaths in the Holocaust. Posters like this showed Nazis as knights fighting alongside farmers against Soviets to protect blood and soil. Others that were aligned with Nazis showed knights fighting socialists. Hitler himself was even depicted as a knight in an oil painting.
Look at that weird picture. Like, listen, they're not knights. If you're in ICE, you are a public servant, bro. You're not a soldier. I could show more and more videos of them beating up regular people. I saw one yesterday. They dragged a blind guy, smashing his face into the ground. For what? This is what I want to say to all you guys who are like, we need to get ICE out there. Have you ever met an immigrant you didn't like? Up here in Western New York, we're 1,000+ miles away from the border. Have you ever met someone from Mexico or Colombia? Ever? And you had a problem? It's a big issue for your life? Guys, think about how messed up in the head you got to be to think this is the biggest issue you're dealing with in your daily life is immigrants. Think about, especially if you're living in Albion or Batavia or Lewiston or Youngstown, if you're obsessed in one of these small Western New York towns about immigrants and you've never seen an immigrant, don't you have to think for a second, maybe I'm being brainwashed? Because of all the problems in your life, gas prices, price of food, price of your kids, whatever, tuition, and you're obsessed with immigrants? Are you stupid? You're being tricked. You're being played. This guy, Trump, has control of every branch of government. He could easily solve so many of your problems if he made you a priority. All budgets are priorities. We live in the richest country in the history of the world, but you don't have the same benefits that people in Denmark have. I mean, Denmark has like a GDP the size of Pennsylvania or something. We don't have the same benefits that people over there have. Why? Why do you hate yourself and your fellow neighbors so much? Is it worth it to hate immigrants you've never met or even seen before? It's worth it? Here we go. Watch it. This is where they're brutally beating up. Watch this. Watch these guys.
Oh shit, this motherfucker goes. Seriously?
This looks like America to you?
What's up, fat ass? Hey, fuck you, fascist! Quit your fucking
This guy's
mouth.
blind. Watch this guy's blind right here. This guy's blind. Blind man, they're looking at look what they do to this blind guy. He doesn't know what's going on. They can't even pick him up because they don't got any upper body strength. Look at this. What is this? This is a blind guy with a cane. What country am I living in? We're having a war with Canada and Venezuela, and we're beating up blind guys? And you guys are cool with this because of immigrants, even though you've never seen any immigrants? What country am I living in?
Comedian Jim Brewer, who was famous for being on SNL.
I don't know who this guy is, but like he makes sometimes some really good points. And here's another one. He's talking about Jim Brewer, who was Mr. MAGA. And I'll take him as a latecomer to like, you realize suddenly that Trump is bad. It took you 10 years to figure this out. But Jim Brewer is now like changing his tune on Trump.
Half-baked, went full political hack during the last run-up to the election. But now that MAGA is here, like so many people that push that terrible virulent ideology, he is now raging against the machine, wanting to be part of the counterculture. And I'm sorry, when you have people of his generation that help put these things into power by normalizing them and saying how bad the other side was.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jim Brewer, that someone said some of your jokes are insensitive. I'm sorry it hurt your feelings so much that you wanted to push a dictator into office. I'm sorry. Woke caused you so much pain. You millionaire comedian who makes goat noises. I'm so sorry. Your feelings got hurt because some girl in the audience said, hey, don't be mean to trans people. But that authorized you to vote for Trump? You pig. You're not a goat. You're a pig.
Let the shoes on the other foot. Like, you're like, oh, you're supposed to welcome them back in. Why? Because when the shoe's back on the other foot, they're going to leave again. These are the most useful, malleable, spineless motherfuckers.
All right.
He's going to get a third term.
Here we go. This is the worst thing, and I will stop with this because it's just terrifying. When I ran for Congress, by the way, this idiot showed up, Steve Bannon. He looked the same back then, too, like a little troll. And people in Western New York flocked to see him. I was like, are you serious? He rallied for Chris Collins, who went to jail, and he was pardoned. Like Steve Bannon went to jail and was pardoned. We got to remember here, the insurgency is running the country. The criminals are running the country. They've been pardoned because you elected Trump to pardon them. Democracy, whether it's because of social media or misinformation or the failures of the Democratic Party, is failing or has failed. And Steve Bannon over here is now telling us that it's true democracy to give Trump a third term because God has ordained it.
So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get.
By the way, when Trump, I got to say this before I go. When I ran for Congress and this idiot came to rally against me, it was very difficult when I couldn't get the local committee chairman on the phone. Sorry to keep bringing it up, but when I was fighting Trump and Trump's family and Steve Bannon and I couldn't get you on the phone, bro. I could have used some backup.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is.
Yeah, tell me the plan, you jerk. You're going to plan to break the Constitution.
We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not.
Says who? Where is your firsthand knowledge of this, sir? Have you seen an angel, Mr. Bannon? Do you talk to the Prophet Muhammad or Jesus Christ or the Buddha on a regular basis? Tell me. He's a vehicle of divine providence? How do you know this and I don't know this? What special insight or knowledge do you have? I'm just supposed to trust you on this? Or trust your followers? Or trust the people that you scammed to build a wall that you just took money and gave to Chinese people or whatever you did allegedly? I don't even know, but like you did go to jail for something, right? That was all just convicted or what? Just a joke? I don't know. Tell me how you know that God knows that Trump is the divine emperor. I want to know. I'd like to know. I'd like to be in on this prophecy.
Churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will, and you could tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm really I'm trying to understand the coherence of the things you've just told me.
It's incoherent.
On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's on his second term already.
At some point in time.
So he's going to argue here that the people have a right to overthrow the Constitution by referendum. But that's why we have a Constitution, so the whims of the immediate political moment don't destroy our democracy. If you want to change the Constitution or remove the 22nd Amendment, go ahead. But you don't just say, well, because the people want it, we can destroy the Constitution. There's certain rights and principles that are so important, we put them in the Constitution so no one can take them away or change them, Mr. Bannon. And if you want to change them, you have to have a constitutional amendment. And it's very difficult to do because that's how it works. We don't let the passions of the moment overcome the will or the rule of law. This guy's such a fake.
We will make sure we
He's
go
a criminal.
through Zanny and define all
A
those
literal,
But
by
you'll be
definition.
undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it.
If the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people?
Yeah, if you're breaking the
tearing up
Constitution because you
would that be
idiots have a
tearing
job.
up? Would
You
the
idiots, you
American
guys in power, and you have tons of power, you you weird looking troll like guy. If you have the power to manipulate the public, you're accountable for breaking the Constitution, my friend. And I know we didn't hold you accountable last time. Really, they tried, but the Democrats and the democratic system is locked into formalities that are ridiculous. They live in another century. But like I don't know why it took so long to prosecute some of these things. But you have a duty to tell people and to advocate for advocacy of the law. You're currently advocating for the destruction of the Constitution openly and acting like you're doing it from a position of self-righteousness.
People be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think yes,
Yes.
actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
Right.
That's not true at all. Trump
That's what it sounds
Yes,
like.
it is.
Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big, beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky,
that's the worst. Wait. That's
Trump,
the worst argument ever. Even dictators who violate laws often have to deal with different political constituencies. Go back and look at the dictatorships of even ancient Europe. They had to listen to different forms of parliament or different political constituencies. It doesn't mean he has absolute power like Kim Jong-un, but he is certainly moving or already entrenched himself as a form of authoritarian. It's a joke to say, well, he doesn't have all powers, that he's not an authoritarian. He has undermined the Constitution. He has undermined the rule of law. He's prosecuting his political foes. He is putting unilateral tariffs on countries. He is now going to unilaterally nullify the 22nd Amendment.
Is nothing but a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean, that's
no.
I think
He constantly is contradicting himself, using straw man arguments, illogical arguments, constantly. And then what they also do is they cherry pick from legitimate left talking points when it suits them. Listen, he is not a fair actor. He is not a good person. He's not as clever as people say he is. He is a grifter. He is a con man grifter who knows that the biggest con in town is Trump, and he wants to be on that con. That's it. And that's what's going on here. It's just these people have no values. They think that their self-interest justifies all manner of deceit, deception, and evil.
It's kind of tensions there.
The only way President Trump wins in 2028 and continues to stay in office is by the will of the American people.
Right. We have a constitution for a reason, bro, to stop con artists and charlatans like you from manipulating the passions of the moment. If you want to change the Constitution, go change it. Do it. Let's see if you can get away with it. But by undermining the law, by saying some immediate referendum or some ad hoc and absolutely obscure and illogical legal argument gives you the right to undermine the rule of law, that's not how it's supposed to work. Now, you might get away with it because there's not a very strong counterpunch from the Democratic Party, and that's the only tool we have right now to fight back, and it's completely limp. But maybe they'll get a backbone. I don't know. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll figure out the situation we're in before they all go to jail. I mean, these guys are going to put everybody in jail. This guy's a straight up con man, and he went to jail, and he's like, listen, I'm going to put everybody in jail. I want revenge. If we did, or if the left did half the things they're doing, can you imagine if they said, we're going to nullify the 22nd Amendment to put Barack Obama in for another term? You know what I would have done? I would have protested Barack Obama. That's the difference. I would have not have said, yeah, baby, let's do it. I mean, I'm not a hick. I'm not a charlatan. These people are not good people. All right, I'm going to end there. Good to see you.